All right, good evening. I'd like to open the October 3rd meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission. We'll take roll call. Ken.
Here.
Haley.
Here.
Jimmy.
Yep, here.
Paul.
Yes, here.
Peter.
Here.
Teresa.
Here.
All right. First up is the approval of the minutes for September 19th. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move to approve those minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Ken.
Yes.
Haley.
I wasn't there. I abstained.
Jim.
Not present for that meeting.
Paul.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
And I also vote to approve those minutes. All right, if there's anybody here for 94 Butler Ave, that's DEP 313631, that has been continued to October 17th. Again, that's 94 Butler Ave, DEP 313631, continued until October 17th.
Bob,
Yes.
he has to continue it to December 5th.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Judy. December 5th it is. All right. Next up is 0 Patriot Circle. It's a public hearing notice of intent for the construction of a single-family dwelling and an appurtenance, tough time with that one, within a buffer to bordering vegetated wetlands. Stephen Leppo, and I do see Paul Fedocchio with us.
Good evening.
Good evening, Paul.
Good evening. Paul Finocchio from PJ Associates. On behalf of the applicant, Steve Leppo. Mr. Leppo is proposing to construct a single-family dwelling with associated grading, a retaining wall, and drainage within the 100-foot buffer zone to a wetlands. The wetlands line, actually, do you want to share the screen? Yeah,
Yes.
I can put the.
Yeah, it's ready for you to share, Paul.
Okay. You see that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Did it, hold on. For some reason it's not coming up here.
I do have it on my PC. I could share what was sent today, Paul.
Okay, it's just for some reason I have it, but it won't come up on the screen.
Okay. All right, here it is.
Okay, great.
Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, a few months ago, we were before this board for the approval of the delineation of the wetlands line. That line was approved, which was basically showing where the arrow is following along flags, basically W 3A through W10 which W10 being down at the easterly corner of the property. And we have an existing retaining wall that runs along here, which then ends, and what we're proposing to do is to extend that retaining wall down along, and also across the back of the property. The proposed wall will be raised in this section by a couple more feet to level out the yard. And also to put a patio in the back behind the house. Excuse me. Up in the upper left-hand corner of the plan, I don't know if you can see it or not, but if you scan down, I guess, the upper left.
Hang on, I'll have to.
Yeah, keep going up and then off to the left. There's a detail. Keep going to your left, please.
Yep.
Okay, right in here. When this subdivision was originally approved, we had an approved wetlands line that is shown as the dashed line on the screen, which runs up along the arrow
yeah,
and then goes across. That line was within the quote-unquote 25-foot do not disturb area. It was actually about 15 feet in from the wetlands line in this area. Then it goes up to about 17 and a half, and then it kicked over. So what we're asking is for a waiver of the policy to construct this retaining wall and also along the back here. And that would be anywhere from 20 feet to 20 and a half feet within the, and then 21 feet up there in the corner within that 25-foot do not disturb area.
Paul, can I just ask you, why didn't you superimpose that on the bigger plan?
This is the same size scale.
But it would have been, okay,
This shows the same structure. The house is still here. It's in the same spot. It's the same wall. I just carried it over here to get a little bit cleaner and to show the arrows, what lines are what.
All right, so at the closest point now would be wetland flag 9, 15.
What
feet.
is it? What is it? 15 to 20?
Be 20 feet.
Okay,
The original delineation was 15 feet. The
Okay.
proposed wall is at 20.
okay,
So the top numbers you read from the bottom up is 20 feet away to the proposed wall. The original line was 15, then we're 20 and a half feet where it was 17 and a half. And then we're up at 21 feet up at that end.
What is the relevance of the original line? I mean, now that you guys have now that we've done an ANRAD.
What was sorry, I missed the question on that part.
What is the continue? We have it now that we have an ANRAD which shows a wetlands line. What was the original line? You say what line are you talking about?
I'm talking about this dash line right here was the original limit of activity that was approved for the original subdivision.
Oh, I see.
Site was
Okay.
created.
right
Okay.
here.
Okay, I see. And so
I was
I'll ask my question. So what is the continuing relevance of that? You know, is that
Well, I'm just showing what was originally approved way back when this first site was developed. And
got
this
it.
lot this is the last lot to be developed in the subdivision now.
I see. Okay.
So I'm just showing the relationship of that line as to where we're proposing to put up a retaining wall.
So you give a little, you get a little. And part
yeah, I
of
was
it.
gonna say, the top portion of that is inside the limit of work line.
Correct.
Yeah, the bottom portion is not.
The
Right.
bottom portion is out.
And
What it
certainly-
does is what it does is sort of allows more access around the corner of the house here.
Mhm. Understandable.
Well, you mentioned the height of the wall. What was that again?
Well, the height of the wall is gonna be elevation 81.
Okay.
Which is basically close to what the existing wall is until it tapers, it does a step down as you go along the wall from what would be the Zemetti's property, which is across on the other side of the cul-de-sac. That's roughly elevation 81. Then it did a step down as it came into this lot.
And there'll be a fence on top of the retaining wall?
Yes, there'll be a fence on, yes, it'll be the exact same fence as there is now.
Okay, which to remind me, is that a 4-foot fence or?
Oh, yes, it is, yes.
Okay, so we kind of like the retaining walls because that just means that it really does mean there's not going to be anything, there's not going to be any use of that property on the downside of the retaining wall.
Correct.
That's helpful.
Which is basically the same for the other portion of the lot. This lot goes all the way behind and up as you follow the flag,
Right.
so.
And so the fact that you're extending it is sort of a helpful. Where is the extension? Can you refresh my memory where that is, Paul?
We're basically right here by the where my arrow is here.
I'm driving, Paul. Remember, it's me sharing my screen.
Oh, that's you, okay.
Yeah. Can point me in the right direction though.
Yeah, you're pretty close to it. It's just above where that existing tree is. That's the end of the existing wall.
Right around
Right
here.
there, yeah, that's it, right to the arrow there.
And how far? And you're taking it all the way up then, right? Okay.
I'm taking it all the way down towards the east, which would be the bottom of the lot.
Okay. So I guess I would view that as a positive then, because it sort of creates like a little wildlife corridor or something down there.
Yeah, it creates a permanent separation.
Mhm. Where's the driveway on the property? Just out of curiosity. It's hard to.
Sorry, what did you say? The driveway is right where the arrow is now, right now. That's a 3-car garage.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Well, what is this right where I'm circling? Is that a tree well or something?
That's just it, yeah, there's just a block wall that comes up and around. I don't even remember if there's a small tree in there or not, but that was part of the block wall that came from, that runs a portion along the back, and also, Steve's father owns the abutting lot to our facing lot to our right. So they have a block wall that runs down along the back of the property and sort of did a little bump around. So that'll be coming out. We'll be carrying the wall right to the property line.
I see the note, the entire roof area of the house to be hard piped to the drainage field. Are these
Yeah.
Caltech chambers or
Those
something?
Yes, they are. There's a detail on there for the Caltech, and it handles for the 100-year event.
Okay, it's size for the 100-year.
Yes.
Okay, wow. Okay, excellent. The patio pavers shown on the bottom right-hand corner of the backyard.
Yes.
Pervious, impervious, any decisions there yet?
I believe the previous pavers, but I'm not sure. I think it's still working with the architect on it.
Okay, that would be our preference.
Yes.
Oh, I see the note 100-year storm down here. Just noticed that.
Paul, is this
Yes.
I remember this as being a stream down there
Where?
where the BBW is. Wasn't there a stream there?
There is one.
It picks up a ditch that runs along, all the way along here, basically all the way along the property line, more or less.
Well, you know that the town has that 50-foot setback for streams. They're in their bylaws. So you might want to look at that.
I'll look at that, but that didn't seem to be a problem when we were back here in 2018 when he filed for this.
Yeah, it's not 2018 though anymore.
Yeah, the town, I guess really only about probably 3-4 years ago, maybe started
No,
pushing back on
Okay.
that.
No, we'll deal with that through the board.
Will this have a full basement, Paul?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
And the sewer pump is pumping up to the sanitary sewer in the area?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, the service lines are already brought in for the water and the sewer. They're already brought in on site, so they'll be putting in the pump chamber. And then they're connecting into that service line, and the same thing with the water.
You bringing the grade up to 80 all the way across there?
Yes.
So you got
So-
1 foot of wall sticking up.
Yes.
Mhm. Elaine, do you see anything here we need to be concerned about?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. No, I don't. It looks fine to me. I don't see anything outstanding.
I have to agree with you.
You seem disappointed, Jim.
Jim, you don't have to, but
So I do have a question though. So usually if somebody encroaches on that 25-foot setback, they counterbalance it with a landscaping plan
What
to bring,
25-foot setback?
well,
We have
wasn't talking
it's
about
our
an
policy, yeah.
25-foot buffer zone.
Oh, so you're saying, okay,
Usually what they do is they try and counterbalance that and say, I'm a little bit closer, but I can plant more densely with native species for habitat and food to counterbalance the closeness to the resource
Yeah.
area.
yeah,
Well,
So that would be my question. Is there landscaping to balance it out?
there might be some landscaping on the lot, but everything on behind that retaining wall is pretty much grown. I mean, we walked the site down there. So I'm not sure where we could put any plantings in down below between the wall and the property.
no, I think she's talking about the other side of the wall.
Yeah,
I-
you've got a couple of little corners in there. I mean,
Okay, probably out in front, I can work with the landscape architect, to put some plantings out in front. Um,
Yeah,
between the sidewalk and the retaining wall, maybe.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
I don't
Yes.
think there's anything else. I recall that as being pretty heavily vegetated
In the
When-
front of the lot, it's
when you were
grass.
out there looking at it.
Isn't it grass?
Yeah, it's grass along there, where it's
But
vegetated is
not
basically
not where
behind,
we putting- not where we
basically from the top of the bank and down, that was vegetated somewhat, but again, we're gonna be going along almost the bottom of the bank as where the wall is going, so there is some growth that's there, but it wasn't anything of spectacular use, so, but we can come up with some plantings on site.
Yeah,
yeah, my thought is wherever you can tuck in a little bit of food and a plant
Okay.
that has berries or something else, wherever you can tuck it in, you're better off than where you are now.
Okay, I can work with one of the landscape architects to come up with some plantings on the site. And also with the homeowner and the architect.
Okay.
That would fit in.
So here's a aerial view of the lot. It does appear to be pretty heavily vegetated on the other
And
side.
all that vegetation is on the other side is gonna be on the downside of that wall, right?
Pretty much, yes. You
Yeah.
You can see
Okay.
the
can
whole wall.
see a little portion of the existing wall right there.
yeah. Okay.
We don't have a file number yet, so,
Yes, we do.
oh, we do.
It's
Late breaking news.
313-313-0633.
How'd that happen?
I went online today.
All right, any other questions from the commission or concerns?
I would just make sure to tell that architect to make sure that they're native plantings.
You know,
Yeah.
Yes.
And you'll speak to the architect about the, about using pervious pavers rather than impervious
Yes.
pavers.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, okay.
Elaine, do you have anything else?
No.
Using previous pavers in place of what?
The back,
Impervious on the back,
Where it says
deck.
patio pavers.
right. Do you see the patio I pointed out, Jim?
Yeah.
It just said pavers, so I was questioning. Okay, nothing else from the commission?
Is the patio the entire back side?
No, it's just a portion of the back of the house. Basically, you'll see that there's the bump out, the stairs are in there.
Yep.
There's a solid line, and give the drawing in front of you, but
Okay, I think I have it.
Bob, can you put the drawing up again?
Yeah,
I got it.
okay.
yeah,
So
with
this
that
area-
solid line, yeah, right in there, yes, that'll be the paver area.
Is it this whole area, this entire back?
I
side?
believe, I can't sure, but I know it's that back portion. I'm not sure how far up it's gonna carry along to the
Okay.
back of that portion there. I'm not sure where it stops.
You should probably show that.
I can update that when I deal with the architect on the type of pavers and, yeah, with the landscape architect. Yeah, it might be in that whole portion. I'm just not sure yet.
Yeah, no problem.
That's a lot of pavers.
I was just wondering, that's all. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from the commission?
Well, I'm thinking, does it have to be so big where it's close to the 25-foot setback?
The house or the patio?
Yeah, the patio. It seems like the whole backyard is pavers.
But Jim, is your point that if you look at where the 25-foot line is,
Yeah,
that if there were, for example, like plantings along the, on the house side of the fence,
right.
between the 25-foot and the fence, would that be something that is that what you're suggesting might be helpful?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how the patio is going to slope and where's the water going to go? Because I mean, the previous pavers, they don't suck up all the water. The water does tend
Your
to.
point, if there was like 3 feet of if there were 3 feet of like a flower bed between the fence and the pavers, just running along the wall on the house side of the wall. Is that what you were thinking? Like a line of shrubs or
yeah,
something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I'm just thinking that the area that he's got outlined in blue now is a pretty big area, and I would think you need to figure on some drainage going down to the low point of his yard and heading into the, do we need anything there to just, I don't know.
Just keep in mind, I just drew this. I don't know, we don't know exactly the limit of the patio.
This is Steve Leppo. Can I add something?
Yes, please do.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, guys. Steve Leppo here. I'm planning on putting with the green areas. I was planning on putting some kind of privacy shrubs there anyways along the whole wall.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
That was the plan. The patio has not been finalized yet. It needs to shrink down a little bit. I'm fine with that. We're just kind of at the tweaking stages now, but there's definitely planning on being shrubs on the whole right side facing the wetlands. The whole wall is going to be privacy shrubs or some kind of vegetation there.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, and that would also prevent anybody from dumping anything over the fence, yard clippings or anything like that.
Ken, what a great job you're doing there.
I'm going to hire you for the design of the landscaping.
I'm sorry, I
design.
just mess around, I'm sorry.
I'm just thinking, Paul, do you have to think about the water running off this? Isn't it going to drain down to the corner of the?
Yes, it is. I mean, I can look in, they have the patio little patio catch basins. They're like a 1 by 1 by 1
I'm just saying, just something to break the water up so it's, you're not like
Yeah.
a heavy flow going in.
Jim, where's it draining now?
Where's the drain now?
Yeah.
It drains to where you're gonna drain it, but
No, I meant the lot's empty right now. Where's it draining to currently?
Into the wetland.
Yeah, everything is sloping. Looks like it's all going plan bottom right-hand corner.
and
Yeah,
then the wall's gonna be sticking up a foot, right?
Yep.
it also
So
goes up above, Bob, as well.
almost like it's almost gonna hit the wall and follow the
Do you
wall
want,
down.
I mean, do you want the wall to be flush with the elevation? I'd be
No, no,
fine with
no,
that also.
no, I'm just suggesting that if Paul could just look at how much water is gonna be in it, we just don't want everything eroding down into this corner and then getting into the stream. Because it's a pretty big area and the pervious pavers don't absorb all the water. They absorb what they can, but so I would imagine that in a rainstorm you would, and Paul, tell me if I'm wrong, I would imagine in the rainstorm, you're gonna get some water flowing down to this lower corner.
Yeah, I mean, what we can do is I'll talk with the engineer and basically, like I said, they had those little patio catch basins, they call them.
Yeah.
They're like a 1 by 1 by 1 foot deep. We can
Yeah.
put them in there. We can check on the, cause I know he's over designed on the Caltech system. And we can
Yeah.
run and tap into that.
Okay,
Yeah, because you could end up with quite a bit of water in that corner after a heavy storm.
Yeah, depending on how big the pavement area is. But again, if we have a green space area between that and the wall, that should help out too. But I will have the engineer look into on putting in those little patio catch basins.
Can I add one more thing, Bob and Jim? I
Sure,
was planning
Steve.
on doing the same similar shrubs in the back too for privacy. So I'm basically planning on having the wall with the fence on top of that. I'm gonna, the whole backyard, I was planning on putting privacy shrubing there with a
Yeah.
mulch bed or a bed around the whole thing.
That makes sense.
just one other question. How high up is the wall on this wetland side? I mean, how much of the wall is exposed on the wetland side?
It's gonna be somewhere anywhere between 6 to 8, 9 feet.
Okay, so do you have kids or anything? Are you putting a fence up there or something? so
Yes,
they
there'll be a
Yeah.
fence put on top of the wall, correct?
won't- Okay. Not that that's wetlands issue, but
Safety issue. You don't want it to fall off.
yeah, okay. If Elaine's still happy, I'm happy.
Would you like to wait to close until we get a plan showing the detail on the patio and landscape areas on those fenced?
Yeah, I think we should.
I
That's
just-
a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that too. We should have the drawing here. There's no-
Paul, can you have that for us for next meeting?
Yes, I'll get in touch we'll work on with the Steve and also the architect, and I'll get in touch with the landscape guy tomorrow.
Okay, and also if you are going to drain into the Caltex too.
Yep, we'll have the numbers.
All right, perfect. All right. Anything else from the commission? Anything from the public? All right, Paul, thank you, and I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
See ya.
Good night. Bye-bye.
All right, we've got about a minute for our next hearing. All right, I do have 7:30. Next up is DEP 313-632 60 Farm Street. Town of Wakefield Permanent Building Committee, public hearing notice of intent for the construction of a new high school. Building, track and field, parking, circulation, utilities within land underwater, inland bank, and buffer to bordering vegetated wetlands. This is continued from our last meeting. And Erin, you're up.
We are up. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
We're here before you again this evening to talk more about the high school project. You should have all received a supplemental package that we prepared, hopefully addressing many of the comments that in the discussion that we had last time. I will say one thing that we did not address. We're still waiting for kind of final development are things related to the culvert. And so we didn't want to submit something that wasn't not quite fully baked, but we look forward to wrapping that up. And of course, the stormwater management design review is still underway with the town as well. So those are kind of paired together too. So we'll certainly have that, an update for you next time we meet. But we do have a package that we'd like to review with you this evening that goes through, and we just want to walk you through everything that we submitted, if that sounds all right.
Sure. Just one quick question. Did you
Sure.
see the DEP comments?
We did, yeah. I was copied on them. We got this afternoon.
Okay.
I don't know if we're going to address them tonight. I will say it was a little confusing.
Yeah.
It seemed like they might have missed some of our submission, and there was a reference to a middle school. So we'll certainly have to get to the bottom of those as another item to address with you and DEP.
Yeah, I did review those. I think they were referencing that the original school design was
Right.
the middle school
Okay.
in its
Okay.
original existence.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were talking about the culvert, the original culvert and all that, but a lot of what they are talking about is part of that stormwater review. We are waiting on information from town engineer on.
Yep. And, we'll obviously be responding to that and to DEP's letter as well.
Okay.
But what we've prepared actually doesn't relate a whole lot to stormwater management in the culvert. It's really to bring clarity to a few key items that we talked that were outstanding from last time.
Sure.
So first is I guess just wanted to provide some clarity on the limits of development right along wetland B. So I'm gonna turn it over to Peter now.
Can everyone see the figure on the screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So yeah, as Aaron said, everything we're going to show here was from that supplemental package that came in. I would imagine maybe Friday morning, hopefully for you guys. So we had some questions about sort of the limits of development, excuse me, and how they fit in with the 25-foot zone. So we did a few blow ups, I'll call them, of the areas around. This is wetland A, including in blue, you see the existing track just to kind of orient yourself. We overlaid that on here. And then obviously the rendered site plan is, you can see behind it. So what you see here is the existing parking, or the proposed parking is getting a little bit closer than the existing track. We are staying outside of that 25-foot zone. But you can see that the parking is getting closer, and these are the transformers for the school. So, and stop me with any questions at any time. So flipping over to the area that's a little more complicated, we'll say, is the wetland B development. So up here, again, you can see the edge of the track. Here's the upper lot by Landrigan. So what we really wanted, and we talked about this briefly, but I think this overlay shows it a lot better than we did last week, is that you can see the edge of the track in blue here, and the fence actually is also in blue with the little X's. And then in red underneath it, gray and red, you see.
Can you zoom in, Peter? Sorry.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, zoom way in. And this is part of what we're trying to describe is how we are so close to the existing track line. So go on, Peter.
Sure. So you can see here in gray, this thin gray line is our segmental block wall. So as you can see, we're really not, I mean, here we're past it, but here we're meeting where it is, and then we're actually pulling away from it a little bit. And then we're going, so we're kind of weaving in and out, but roughly following the line. The closest point is 6 feet, which is here at the southern end, and that's where we're matching it. And then as the wetland tails away, we're also maintaining this wall, just again, to keep that solid buffer between the wetland and our development. And then as you go north, we actually are getting a little bit closer just because of the slight rotation that we have of the school versus the existing field. But you can see we're keeping it outside that 25-foot buffer. And then if you pan over farther south, this is the existing upper lot. And because of the parking program, we found this area, it would be a good area to expand the parking as opposed to putting a C around the school. So we are extending it into the buffer. This is a parking lot with a retaining wall. You might remember from the sections we showed last time. But that is also staying outside that 25-foot zone, just extending into the 100-foot buffer.
Any questions on those?
Any questions on that?
Yeah.
Is this an additional parking lot that you're putting up there? Is that what you're showing?
Extension of the
Yeah, so in
upper lot.
blue, here's that upper lot. So when you're driving up Hemlock on your left,
Yeah.
on your right is the field. On your left, there's parking that's shared by the high school and the Metro Tech. We're just squaring that off to add some spaces here. So in gray is what we're adding. We're maintaining what's in blue and we're just adding what's in gray.
So how high is the wall gonna be on the lower section? I mean, how high, because that's quite a height differential there, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, so if you flip over to the grading plan, I'll get you an exact number. I don't want to misspeak here. So here's the grading plan. You can see this is the extension there. So this corner is the highest point of the wall.
Yeah.
Where the proposed grade is about 90. And I believe the existing grade is about 70.
A 20-foot high wall, huh?
75.
What kind of wall is that gonna be?
So that's about 15 feet.
What kind of wall is it?
Oh, it's a cast in place concrete wall.
Where's the drainage going for that? Isn't it going down to the Pipe Brook?
Correct. So, yep, we have two catch basins here, going to a manhole, and there actually is an existing water quality unit up there that we're going to be reusing, and then that goes down Hemlock and discharges into the culvert. We also have a few of those high flow media.
It's going there anyways right now, correct?
Correct, yes. There are catch basins in here existing that go to the water quality unit, and then down the street, we're just, because of the expansion, we're just relocating, installing new ones. And then we're also adding some high flow media filtration just for some added water quality up here as well.
Is the extension of the parking to make up for lost spaces down below, or is it adding more spaces?
It's a little bit of both. I would say, so the existing school is surrounded by parking, which if you've been to any of the meetings so far, we've kind of brought that up numerous times. Because we like to, have green space around the school and spaces for the students to meet outside and all that kind of stuff. So part of it is pulling parking away and bringing it up here. And then another part of it is that we are expanding at the request of the school. The parking program is expanding slightly on the site.
So can I ask you a question? Last meeting, you talked about the fact that it's going to be a net decrease in impervious area. But how
Correct.
much of that net increase, how much of the increase in impervious area is within the 100-foot buffer compared to what's there now?
So
You haven't calculated that separately, right? I mean, how much more is in?
no, we haven't. I think qualitatively we've looked at it. I mean, just in this image alone, so this track is all impervious, and we're replacing all that other than with this small piece of building. We're replacing that with all lawn and porous pavement. So obviously this is a big increase of impervious, as well as if I flip back over here,
Right,
this
that's
piece
what,
of parking. Yes.
that's what struck me, exactly.
Yes. So we can definitely provide that calculation. I will say we did look at the overall site, and I believe it was Rebecca who brought it up. If the porous pavement doesn't count, and we still are decreasing impervious on the site, it's almost an acre if you count it, and it's a tenth of an acre if you don't.
Right, but
But-
I think we care about how much is in the buffer zone. That's, I mean, I get that.
Sure. Yes, and that yes, we can definitely look into that.
Thank you.
Any more questions, or we can move on to lighting?
I think we can move on, Peter.
Okay.
Megan Collins was gonna walk us through lighting. Megan,
I just was trying to find unmute.
Okay,
Unmute.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, can I ask just a random question on the part that was the wetland that's that's on the other side of the property? I remember when we did the site walk, there was some discussion about no, I'm sorry, all the way over toward close to Farm Street. You know, it's
On the baseball field?
by the baseball fields.
Oh,
yeah,
of course.
on the
Yeah,
other
that-
side of the
yeah.
baseball field. Yeah, I know
Okay.
just right. I know you're gonna get before you get onto that. I just wanted to ask that. It was on my mind. Where is the
We actually, we might not have a plan of it because
Oh.
we're not showing.
Yeah, it's actually
much.
not even. Yeah.
Okay. Because the question I had is that someone had mentioned that there may be some, you may be cutting down some trees over there to provide some temporary parking during the construction. And I didn't know if that was something that was reflected on any of this. I don't think it was. I couldn't tell though.
We do have temporary pavement over there, and it's going to be utilized for contractors and then for the school at some point, but all of that is outside of the buffer zone. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to get wetlands confirmed on that side of the street so that we could steer clear of the buffer zone.
Okay.
Yep, but that's on the plans, but it will be restored to lawn at the end of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this
And
is
there-
the closest we can get to it, where this is the far end by farm.
Mhm.
Yeah. The outfield of the baseball field.
And the plan includes planting trees along the street there as well.
Okay.
So last time we heard that you would like to hear about lighting calculations. And so we have provided a diagram of lighting calculations within the buffer zone of wetland A and wetland B. We have also revised the calculations to be made using 3000K. Our original report included 4100K, and so all lighting will now be at the 3000K. We are using a mixture of pedestrian poles, building mounted lighting, and only in parking lots we'll be using parking lot poles, which are 20 feet. The pedestrian poles are between 10 and 12 feet height. As you can see, we've highlighted in yellow the 0.01 line that transitions to 0 in everywhere except this tiny little corner of the wetland B. We need to have a light pole on that corner of the parking lot for public safety. Everywhere else, we have been able to provide comfortable safety lighting and stay away from the wetland, from the BVW line. And
Peter, can you zoom in so that folks can just see how the lighting calculations are done? Do you see all those zeros? That means
Yeah.
that there's no light, then that's the wetland boundary and that dashed line.
So it is very little, and we need to keep in mind that these calculations do not include any vegetation. So there will be some maintained vegetation along this edge, and so it's very possible that there wouldn't be light coming through here when there's leaves on the trees, but this would be possibly a winter calculation. Peter, do you want to pan over to wetland A just to take a look? So we're keeping it very clear from wetland A, and so there'll just be one light pole in that parking lot over there. Were there any questions?
No.
So the dashed lines are the wetland boundary, or what are they?
Yes, that's the BVW delineation line. Yeah.
And the solid lines are what? The solid black lines.
The solid black lines there are the candle foot measure of light coming from the fixture itself. So light throws a particular amount of, or fixtures throw a particular amount of light in distances, and when photometrics are calculated, those levels are highlighted with those solid lines.
You think of it like a contour for lighting levels is kind of what those are.
Is this assuming back shields on all the lights?
Yes, so all the lighting would be directional and dark sky compliant. Okay. And then there was a question last time about shadow from the building on the wetland upper area. And so we provided a shadow study that showed the summer solstice, the winter solstice, and the spring autumn equinox at 3 p.m., since that would be the most effective shadow on the wetlands. So I think this first one is the equinox, and you can see it's a little bit hard to see sort of where that wall is that Peter was talking about earlier, but it's very faint sort of line at the back of the building that you can see. And then the next one down on the figure is the summer solstice, which would be the least shade on the wetland. And then the next one down is the winter, which would be the most. As you can see, long winter shadows on the wetland area. Any questions about that?
Hey, going back to the lighting plan, should we be concerned about if the building is right up against the wetland, and there's going to be, presumably there's going to be light, the back of the building has got to have windows, and it's going to be lit, and it's going to be 3 stories tall in one place and 2 stories tall the other. Is that something we should be concerned about, that kind of lighting, or are we only talking about exterior lighting? I would say that's one difference. With that, you have the track, you don't have a building. We have a track. We were just trying to decide what is different about having a building.
I mean, typically, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Typically the buildings are not lit at night. There is the occasional special event where there would be activity in the building where lighting would be on, but typically lighting levels in buildings or in schools are turned off at night, and so there wouldn't be any pollution from light. the building that we're looking at on the right, that wing is actually the auditorium. And so there are no windows on that facade at all.
Okay.
So there would be no concern on that one, on that wing as well. And that is the closest point to the within the buffer.
Are you showing lights on that on this drawing of these two circles? A light?
Those are building mounted lights, and so those would light the pathway. But there would be no ambient light coming from windows because there are no windows on this facade.
Are the fixtures all rated not to exceed 3,000, or is 3,000 the actual rating? Like, is that actually, it will be at 3,000 Kelvin or not to exceed 3,000?
I will have to pull up the cut sheet that the electrical engineer sent to me. So if you want to give me a second.
Why do you ask that question, Bob?
Well, I mean, 3,000 is certainly a lot better than anything higher. 2,700 is probably more ideal, but 3,000 is still acceptable.
What about those lights that are supposed to be friendly for animals?
We're in that range right now, and that, not to exceed 3,000.
But remember that guy was talking about 9,000 something?
He was talking about the wavelength. And I believe nanometers.
Is that something we need to look at?
It appears that these would be LEDs with a lumen package of 3,000.
Okay.
So my assumption would be that that's the maximum, and that's the fixture that we would be using. So it wouldn't exceed that.
Does it have the wavelength on that spec?
I just see a bug rating. Would that help you?
No.
I don't think so.
We should find out about that.
Is there a wavelength that you're looking to see or hoping to see?
Well, it was brought up at for the Vogue School. We were trying to get those lights that were wildlife friendly. And there's a guy that seemed to know a lot about lighting, was talking about a wavelength that was important. So
I think that ends up making the lights yellow, Jimmy.
What's that?
That ends up making the lights yellow.
Does it?
Yeah. So that's a question whether that's something we want to push to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the 3,000 Kelvin is a warmer.
It's a warmer white.
So it's more natural.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about whether it's warm or not. I'm just worried about whether it's beneficial to the wildlife or not.
Yeah, I think it was 590. Was what he was quoting. I believe. Looking for it right now. Yeah, 590 nanometers.
Aaron, can't you spend a few minutes and look that up and see if you can find something that's wildlife friendly?
590 is the recommendation. I actually have it right now.
Would you like me to look up something? I'm sorry, I might have missed something.
Yeah, Jim, it's 590 is the recommendation. 590 nanometers is the wildlife friendly wavelength recommended.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to look into that a little bit because I know that guy was adamant about it, and I'll just see if I can find out something.
Yeah, I have it in front of me right now.
We will certainly get back to you. I'm concerned. I don't know what the answer is, so we're going to find out and present that to you. I'm just worried that I am anticipating, and maybe for nothing, but if we're at a point where we have to balance safety and security of those behind the school, and wavelengths for habitat. I think we'll have to talk about that. Maybe not, but I think these lights are critical to provide minimum levels for safety and security around the building. And I think that's just this perspective from the design team. And so, again, we will bring you that information. But I am worried that if we start to fuss with the lighting so much that we maybe begin to compromise some of our safety and security goals.
Okay. Yeah, and you may be there already, Erin.
Okay. Yep. We're gonna find out.
Okay.
Any questions on lighting or the kind of the shade studies that were requested? Certainly there'll be more shade than there is now. Teresa, you talked about, getting some quantities of impervious area. I think we're doing a lot on the site, but I think in the buffer zone, we if I were to guess, we're probably going to be exceeding the existing impervious cover. We're also going to be increasing plant diversity and naturalizing areas as well. And so I think that we'll have to describe maybe some of the benefits of the project that we're doing in the buffer zone to offset some of the impervious area that we're proposing. I think we did want to touch also on winter maintenance a bit. If there are no more questions about lighting and shadows.
I think we're good there.
Okay. All right. So our original submission included an operation and maintenance plan. The town provides much of the operation and maintenance for vehicular driveways and the stormwater BMPs. And so we've included their standard operating procedures for many of the BMPs, which also and the vehicular pavements on the site. The district maintains the pedestrian spaces. So it's kind of funny that you have one site, one school, but it's really maintained by two different bodies of the town. The town's standards follow recommendations from MassDOT, and they're very standard, typical. The vehicular pavement will be pre-treated, plowed, rock salt will be applied, and then reapply as needed. And that is pretty standard throughout the town, not just on the site. The pedestrian spaces, we really had an interesting talk with Tim O'Brien, who's the director of facilities for the district. We did note that he received special training from the American Public Works Association for snow and ice removal, which is actually the first time I'd heard of that. But he learned what he told us was a less is more conservation, a conservative approach for application, where many believe that the more ice melt you apply, the better it will work, but that's simply not the case. And so they've shifted over the past 3 years to a blended ice melt. They said that it's been working really well for the pedestrian spaces. They also have special equipment, they're called SSVs, that can push or blow snow as needed. We reiterated kind of some of the goals of the porous pavement and where they're located on the site. He seemed really excited. Of course, that there could be some environmental surface on the site that could eliminate potentially the need for ice melt, but also as a way to save, as a more economical way to deal with pedestrian pavements, and certainly looking to monitor how those perform after the project is occupied, and potentially implement these types of pavements on other sites in the district. A little bit more about the special equipment that they have is that they can also adjust the application rate and throw of the ice melt products. And so it really is more precise than maybe some traditional standard equipment. So a little bit more about that. We did talk last time about this pathway behind the school. It's not a vehicular, certainly regular traffic area. It's really meant as a pedestrian space. So it may be plowed or snow might be thrown from this area. We did think though about where snow might be pushed and stored. And so we've included this diagram as a supplement to, and thought about where spaces could be available for placement of snow. And so some of these areas are around the school if you zoom out. And these are just any opportunity that we saw. But certainly they'll be, I imagine they won't have snow in them all of the time in all of these places throughout the duration of our winters, but just to get you thinking that there are places available around the site, even though we have a robust parking program and are providing for the district in so many ways on the site. We have thought about snow storage as well.
And those are the areas in turquoise on the drawing?
They are, yep. So they're adjacent, mostly adjacent to the walkways, easy for snow to be pushed. Any questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I have one. Could you scroll up a little bit? I just wanted to see where those turquoise areas are relative to the wetland areas. No, I'm sorry, the other way, yeah. So okay. So the DEP has snow storage management guidelines, and they talk at least about a minimum of 50 feet. And they talk about erosion control around the piles of snow. Can you tell me how far the distance is between those turquoise areas and the edge of the wetland?
Some of them look to be closer than 50 feet. But we would be happy to revise this diagram to take those areas out. We could identify a 50-foot. These are just the practical areas that snow will likely be left.
Okay, so I would recommend that you take a look, go onto the DEP website and look at the snow storage guidelines. And they have a whole protocol for managing snow storage in close proximity to wetland areas.
Okay. I will definitely take a look. This area is interesting. All of this pavement is porous, and so we rarely see a very limited use or any use or no use at all of ice melt. And so the snow that will be pushed may not have any ice melt at all in it. So there's a different kind of a need for and a balance of snow storage and considerations for melt.
I get that, but the DEP protocol doesn't distinguish between snow that has salt in it and snow that doesn't.
Okay, we'll take a look.
Okay.
Do you really think it's reasonable to use these areas between in the parking lot as snow storage? Because they can't be very wide.
They're not. We asked Joe Conway, the director at DPW. He said they will leave snow wherever they can. So this is a realistic, I think, idea of where snow might be piled. I don't think that skinny one, you're not going to get a high bank there just because it's not big. But if there's a small storm, I think that you might see, snow's pushed up against and above that curb line.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any more questions about snow storage? Erin, did you mention what type of ice melt would be used specifically?
Yes.
Is it just rock salt?
No, Tim didn't say anything about rock salt for the pedestrian spaces. It's a ice blend, blended ice melt product containing calcium chloride, potassium chloride, and sodium chloride.
Okay.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear all of that.
Calcium chloride, potassium chloride, and sodium chloride. It was in the letter.
And that includes the walkway in back of the building, right in front of the wetland line.
So that's all going to be porous pavement, and so I'm not sure. That area will perform very differently than traditional impervious walkways. If any melt occurs, it's going to go into the voids of the space. That's how it's designed. So there's not going to be, you're not going to need to consider what happens when melt happens in runoff, then and temperatures drop and then runoff freezes as it that's one of the benefits of using porous pavement materials is the winter maintenance.
Okay.
Is it going to freeze?
Is what going to freeze?
is the pervious pavement, what does that look like? Is it like asphalt only?
It's like it looks like asphalt. It's black like asphalt.
Yeah.
But it just looks like chunkier.
Okay.
Like you can actually see the different. It looks like rocks, kind of,
Okay.
but it's all it's asphalt.
Aaron, if something were to be used in that back section, would that be done by hand or would that be a truck applying? It's kind of narrow back there.
You know, I don't know. I assumed because Tim talks so much about the equipment they have and that they utilize on pedestrian spaces that, you know, that this equipment is also able to, they can control the throw and the concentration kind of the ice melt that they apply. So I assumed that he would be using this back here, but we can certainly check in on that and ask what kind of size of equipment.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure it's really not recommended to use any melting products on the material in general. And I believe it's included in the operation and maintenance plan for the school to not use any melting materials.
I like that.
Yeah, and if something were needed back there, your options are much more open if you would do something by hand if you had to. You know, you could then go to a sodium acetate or potassium magnesium acetate or something of that nature if you had to do something by hand. Something that would be, you know, chloride free. But to Megan's point, yeah, that pervious asphalt could be very sensitive to corrosives like the chlorides. It'd be interesting to find out, you know, the information on that. All right, anything else on snow storage or treatment? Okay.
Okay. And again, we're just walking through the letter that we submitted. So next up is we talked a lot about educational signage. So Megan is gonna kind of review what we have planned so far for educational signage.
So we submitted to you a figure of some typical signs that we have used in other projects. The one that Peter is looking at right now is the one that Aaron mentioned in our last presentation, is the poison ivy information sign. We also included some biophilic design, naturalization of vegetation, and how it boosts biodiversity and ecosystem function. We also included a subsurface infiltration system infographic, stormwater BMPs, rainwater management, and outdoor water use, as well as urban heat island effects. And all of these would apply to this project. And we in addition have discussed using having signs for pollinators and a little bit more specific signage for the bio retention basin that is over near wetland A. So we just wanted to sort of show you, you know, some examples of what we've done in the past. We typically customize them to the project. And so you'll see on the figure that there are references to Waltham High School or I think the other school that was used, whose example I used was Rockland Elementary School. And so we really make it for the place, make it applicable to the place, reference things that are appropriate to the site and to our design. And so we just wanted to bring those to your attention. And
where are those put, Megan?
So those would be throughout the site. There is a plan. They are marked on the plans that you guys got there on the 200 to 204 series sheets, because they are throughout the site. So those would be located nearest to whatever they're referencing. So we have done ones for electric charging stations in the past. We would put a sign near the electric charging station. There's one that we have sort of where the Central Commons exits out towards the wetland that would explain how the wetland functions, what the ecosystem functions are there, pollinator functions. I haven't designed exactly what it will be, but if you have an opinion, we're happy to hear it and include it. But it really would probably be something about, the vegetation and the function of wetlands.
And how big are the signs and what are they made of?
They're typically aluminum panel, and I think it really kind of varies. I think this one that we're looking at, that rainwater management, I think it's pretty big, like 24 or 30 inches wide by 18 inches high. So it's sizable, and depending on the project, we've, made them very much like, national park signs that are tilted a little bit down so that water doesn't sit on them, but they're also not just like plunked in the ground, at 90 degrees. They're a little bit tilted so that they're easier reading.
Yeah, I know we talked about this last meeting, but this really is a great opportunity to provide education, and these signs will do that in conjunction with the science classes and everything else going on at the school. I happened to see an article about the school from a year ago, September, and it did, mention these signs and the educational opportunity. So it is good to see, and this is really a great idea.
I like these as well. My suggestion though would be to maybe simplify it. I feel like students' eyes will just glaze over most of this information. Maybe include like a QR code if they want to really dig into it and find out more. And that gives an opportunity to update information as well.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. Anyway, I think having words in front of you is helpful myself, but.
Yeah, I'm not saying take away the words entirely. I'm just saying a slightly more simple, much more graphic heavy, just to really engage the students a little more.
We'll take a look into it and bring it up with the administration.
Okay, anything else on signage? Okay.
So the next item on the memo was a little bit more about the drainage BMPs. I know we covered a lot in the first hearing, so it was at a really high level. So I just wanted to take a second and sort of go over some of the more technical details of the drainage system. So I was going to start with the treatment trains. This is something that we talked about last time. So this is all in Appendix F of the NOI application that was called stormwater calculations. So these spreadsheets show each treatment train. So basically where water and where runoff first enters the system and then where it leaves to go to infiltration, or in a few cases, discharge directly to the culvert. So we really only have 4 different ones on the site. One of the most popular ones we have is this high flow rate media filtration, which I'm going to touch more on a second on those, which then go into the subsurface infiltration structures. So all the trains have at least 80% removal. This one has 96, and this occurs in multiple instances. The next one is catch basin to water quality unit, much more standard. This one actually, when I was going back through this, I realized is actually incorrect. We don't have a catch basin to the bioretention area. We just have pre-treatment, which is crushed stone and vegetated strips. So this one actually is just the 90% of the bioretention area, which is still more than 80, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then the last one is the high flow media filtration, just going directly into the culvert, which the high flow rate media does achieve 80%. So talking about those HFMF, I know we talked a little bit about them last time. I just wanted to give a visual of what those actually look like. So on the plans, still black and white, but we have this detail here showing the box. So it is a concrete box that goes in the ground, that is open on the top. And then it's filled with this media, this filter media, has a little mulch and vegetation on the top, and it's at a low point in the site. So whether that's next to a curb or in the middle of a landscape island or where it is, it's at a low point so that the water enters in the top. And then it's treated as it flows down through the box, and then it's collected in an under drain and then piped out of the box. So these don't infiltrate themselves, they just treat. And then it leaves the box and goes into either the culvert or the infiltration system. So maintenance on these really is just making sure the vegetation's healthy, replacing the mulch every once in a while. There is a clean out here, so if you notice these are ponding, you would just flush that out, make sure no silt is getting in there. And then the filter media really doesn't, it can last indefinitely if these are, if debris and silt is removed on an annual basis and there's no drastic events, you never really need to replace that.
How do you remove the debris and silt?
That would just be, going out and picking it up off the surface. So this is all exposed at grade.
So it's only going to essentially be accumulating at the surface. The rest of the 21 inches doesn't really do.
So
in terms of removal.
Well, so the mulch would collect anything big that would, if you have any sand or any trash that happens to wash out, that would just get caught in the mulch. So that's what you would do. You go out and you would just pick that up. The media itself provides more water quality on a smaller scale, removing TSS and things like that.
Okay. And what is the media?
It's like a sand. It is engineered, so it's a blend of various sands and some stones and things of that. It's all natural, but it's an engineered blend of those, specifically designed to remove, to provide
TSS
water quality.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks, if you pick it up, it looks just like a coarse sand. So were there any other questions, just in general on the stormwater system, that we could get into now?
Any questions, anybody?
now to bring this up, but the DEP recommended that we
Right. that's what I was gonna say.
hire a peer reviewer for the stormwater management design.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sorry, Peter, this is not directed to you. It's really directed to the commission.
I didn't think it was.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I should
Yeah.
have waited till the end. I'm sorry, Peter. I
Oh,
interrupted.
no, it's totally okay. Yep.
But I just think we should, I mean, we don't discuss that at this very minute, but I think we should discuss that.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. Though we haven't got our letter yet from Bill, but still, it does make sense. We should probably have that discussion with Bill also.
When would we talk about engaging a specific peer reviewer?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about just not holding this up too much. That's all.
Yeah, no, I mean, when we received the recommendation, I just think it's a matter of diligence, since the suggestion was made by DEP.
Yeah.
I'm reluctant to say, no, we reject that suggestion. I think we should embrace this and move forward promptly to identify one and get the job done. So the question is, should we discuss that now or later?
But we should let, I think, the applicant maybe continue that discussion, the presentation, maybe.
is fine. Yep,
And that's my fault, Peter. I interrupted Peter.
Well, no, but you were trying to just point out that the timeline.
Right. That's exactly right, Peter.
Are there any other questions on stormwater?
I don't think so at this time.
Okay.
So that was our presentation.
Oh. Well, that made a big difference waiting, right?
It's well timed.
You did a good job, Teresa. You caught it at the very end, which is what your intent was. So
I knew
played.
that, of course, right?
All right. So Erin, you do have some takeaways as a result of some of the questions tonight.
I do. I am especially anxious about Bill's review. So my understanding was that Bill's review would be in lieu of hiring a third party, that he essentially is that role in this process. So my only hesitation is that it takes time to get another peer reviewer on board, and so if we're going to go that route, great, but then let's do it, because it takes time.
Do you think, Teresa, it would be wise to speak to the DEP to
absolutely, yeah, we should
to let
talk to
them know
Bill.
them know that we did have our town engineer look at it as well, and see whether the response is we know and we still recommend it, or we didn't know, and that would have changed our recommendation.
Well, that's why I'm recommending we also talk to Bill first.
But I'm sorry, yes, and I agree with that. We should talk to Bill first.
So I'm anxious to hear from Bill. He'll have stuff that we need to address. I know he'll find things that need to be addressed. So will you see his review, depending on the comments, as thorough enough, or you're simply looking for additional eyes on the counts?
Yeah, I think two things. One, we need to wait to see his review, but also have a discussion with Bill and get our level of comfort, whether or not we want to introduce a additional set of eyes. Well, did Bill give any type of estimate as to when he'd have his response?
I really like Bill. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he told me a couple days, many days ago. So any day, I hope to hear from Bill.
All right, we'll reach out to Bill this week also to see where he stands and get a feel for that.
And then, how does it ask you, Erin, the comment that DEP made in the first sentence, that you don't meet the performance standards?
I have no idea. I've never received a DEP review letter quite like this before.
that
I-
said that.
It seems like she was or he or she were reading a different application because I felt like we went through all of this. Maybe she skipped that part of the report where we go through all of the standards. I don't know.
Elaine, is it appropriate for you or Rebecca to follow up with her on this?
Yes, yeah, I know Rebecca had spoken with her, so I will forward this to Rebecca and let her know.
Okay, and
Get it sorted out.
as representing the applicant, would certainly be happy to participate with on a call with you and DEP just to hear what's happening or maybe what was missed.
Okay, I'll let Rebecca know that too.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks, Elaine.
Anything else from the commission?
Well, there was going to be a little bit more information on wildlife spectrum-friendly lights.
Yeah, we're looking for the wavelength, correct?
Wavelength, and then there was going to be something, a little bit more review on the DEP snow storage and the locations.
Yep.
Correct. Erin, do you have anything else besides those 2 points?
Teresa asked if we could quantify impervious area within the buffer zone.
Correct.
Since there are no standards that I'm aware of, we did provide a narrative about the design. So I guess we can provide those numbers, but in the event they exceed what is existing, we are still going to rely on the narrative about the site design that's been implemented, the educational signage, stormwater management for treatment and water quality and all of those good things. Those still apply. We can the numbers are the easy part, and we can certainly get you those. What else is on my list?
In reviewing the minutes from the last meeting,
yep,
it looks like we requested a detailed invasive removal plan.
If you did, we totally missed that.
Again,
what do you mean by detailed?
Well, I'm reading the minutes,
yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Because you did talk about how.
What would you be looking for?
Yeah.
Areas that we would be removing, or.
Does that make out with anyone else?
Does there need to be management? Does there have to be invasive species management anywhere on site? Is that what you're talking about?
This comment was removal, actually.
I wasn't here for the last meeting, so.
Teresa, I believe when I was looking at those notes and the emails, I believe the answer was something along the lines of that there was not much to be managing within the footprint of their limit of work.
I think that was discussed I think that was discussed at the meeting, actually. So ignore that.
Okay.
Ignore that.
Okay. Sure. Did you, I wasn't at the last meeting, but did you guys talk about any dewatering or how you plan on doing that? I mean, with the two brooks, you gotta switch the pipes over. I'm sure there's something that has to happen.
We're working on a series of diagrams that will show you how we are going to relocate the culvert, and it shows you step by step all of the pieces that are going to happen, where frac tanks are going to be located, how all of that work. So that is missing, and that's something that we're working on, and it's nearly done, but we didn't want to give you something that wasn't quite all the way done.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from the commission, or anything we haven't touched on? Elaine, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. I took a list of all the things that are the takeaways. I will forward this information that needs to go to Rebecca, and I don't have anything more.
Okay. Jim, do you want to reach out to Bill Renault and just see where he's at?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions from the public?
Bob, I just have one question.
Go ahead.
The upper parking lot, is that getting done as part of this project?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it.
Oh, I do have one more thing. Forgive me. I'm looking through my notes here. Rebecca was talking about higher pollutant loads because of the number of trips per day.
Mhm.
And, perhaps some information on that would be helpful for the next meeting.
Okay.
She seemed to feel that the traffic study indicated that there were 1,200 trips per day. The trigger for higher pollution loads is 1,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Wanted some information on that.
Sure. We did submit a narrative when we documented compliance with that standard. So that's the peak is 1,200 trips. You might add on some to account for visitors and whatnot, but the site has been flexibly designed with multiple ways to access. And so given the roadway improvements and some and some of the goals about how we distribute drop-off areas and separate bus drop-off, we don't anticipate any areas of the site will experience greater than 1,000 trips per day. There's 2 main entrances, so immediately you might cut that in half.
But again, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Erin, but if the total number is 1,200, I don't understand how you're saying now, because it's dispersed, it's going to be less than 12, fewer than 1,200. So can you just explain that to me? Is it 1,200 or is it not 1,200?
The project will create 1,200 trips.
Okay.
But when you look at how the traffic's been designed in and out of the site,
it won't be 1,200?
There's not going to be a place on the site that will experience that intensity, because we have things distributed. We have multiple entrances. We have multiple drop-off places. Parking is spread around. And so there's not going to be a place on the site. There's not just one entrance that will experience everyone in and out. There's not just one drop-off area.
And again, I'm not a traffic study expert at all.
That's okay.
But I guess it's that logically, I don't understand that. It's either 1,200 or it's not 1,200. And you're saying, no, the fact that it's 1,200 is not right, because it's, in fact, because it's in different locations, it's going to be fewer than 1,200 trips. So again, both Rebecca and I had trouble understanding that.
Okay.
How you start with 1,200 and say, nope, it's dispersed. So in fact, ignore the 1,200 number. So that's all. And I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm saying initially the number was 1,200. And now you're saying, no, it's not going to be 1,200.
I would love to pull up what we provided in our.
Yeah, I have it up.
Okay.
It's pretty, you actually summarized it very well, but.
Who did? I did?
Oh, I read what so Aaron's talking about standard 5 here, which is where we describe the design. But so I think what Aaron was trying to say is that when you're looking at the higher pollutant loads, you actually look at a physical area of the site. You're not just looking at the site as a whole. So you're saying 12,000 cars drive over this one catch basin. Therefore, there will be much higher loads going into that catch basin. But because of the way the site's designed, we have parking at the upper lot, we have parking at the north lot, all over the place with separate driveways. The traffic study shows that there's no one portion of the site that will experience over 1,000 trips, which is the threshold. They will be evenly dispersed around. Therefore, the stormwater system as designed will be able to manage the loads that are coming into each inlet and each catch basin and each one of those.
I just want you to read the words that it says. It says the site is experiencing 1,200 trips per day. And again, it could be me. I'll stop saying the same thing, because the definition of insanity is saying the same thing and expecting a different result. But yet you're saying no, it's actually going to be 1,000. So again, I'm not a traffic study. You're saying that this makes sense. Respectfully, I don't think it does, but I'll stop talking.
Well, but this I'm looking at standard 5, and it says
it's not applicable to the project because of the. Sorry, Jimmy, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it says it refers to the site. It doesn't say one exit or anything like you're saying. It says the site, so that would be the whole project, wouldn't it? I mean, start saying this catch basin or that area parking lot, saying the site.
Yeah, we can go back to this standard. So this is actually a standard that we always ask commissions about how they've interpreted before, because it seems in our experience, every community has maybe a slightly different take on, is it the site? Technically the handbook describes parking lots experiencing these trips. So where our parking only provides 250, 244 spaces, that will never see more than 1,000 trips because those spaces don't turn over 4 times in a day. We can clarify our response to this for sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
So if I could add one thing to this, I think what from my discussion with Rebecca is the difference between the standards that would be implemented if you had a higher pollutant load and what you're using now. So what she wanted to see was if you adopted the interpretation that the whole site was taking 1,200 loads per day, what would be the difference between the best management practices you would design for that and what you have now? And I think that was what she was getting at.
Okay.
Not so much arguing about how many loads is it really, but the environmental impact. What's the difference between if you designed for that and the design you have now?
Sure.
Okay, that was what she was looking for.
That's clear.
I'm going to add that to my list.
All right, anything else from the commission? Okay, anything from the public? Any questions? And I would ask that you raise your hand and identify yourself for the record. I do not see any raised hands. All right. All right, so Erin, you have a little bit of homework. We will also reach out to Bill Renault, see where he's at. And then determine whether or not we'd like to have a peer reviewer for the stormwater.
And also reach out to DEP about what they meant by the first
right.
About some of their comments in their letter. But
right. And we will put you on for Tuesday, October 17th. Is that correct? Yeah. All right. Anything else?
No, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night. All right. The only other item I'm seeing on the minutes is a request for a certificate of compliance for 20 Bon Air Ave, DEP 313268. Elaine, have you been out there?
I did. I went out there last week and I reviewed the file. So if you've been to Bon Air Avenue, you'll know that there's a wetland on one side of the street and no wetlands on the other. This particular property is located across the street from a wetland on someone else's property. So they were within a 100-foot buffer zone, but yet they have no resource areas on their property. So there was no requirement for an as-built, perhaps because it was so old, or perhaps because the wetland was across the street. So I looked around the property itself looked fine, and I looked across the street at the wetland on the neighbor's property, which also looked very lush and thriving. So I would recommend that a certificate of compliance issue.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor. Ken,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
and I also vote yes.
Okay, I'll let Rebecca know.
Do you have any other business, Lane?
No, I don't.
Judy, what about you?
The only thing is just a reminder that Peter and Jim are gonna be at Town Day on Saturday, 1 to 4. If anyone wants to go visit them, of
Doing arts and crafts?
course they are.
Your ring gear.
Jimmy,
Right,
you can
it's gonna
show
it's gonna
kids how to
rain.
build a birdhouse
That's what I should have brought. It's some birdhouses.
without a nail gun, though. No nail guns.
I've told Jim that I should have to come clean. I have I through my own stupidity, I have a conflict that I cannot go. So Jim has volunteered to do it on his own. So if anyone is interested in visiting him, you really could use the company.
You'd have to bring a gin and tonic though.
I'm sure that's totally kosher. I'm sure.
Yeah, not frowned upon at all.
No.
All right. Anything else, Judy?
If you have any comments on the stuff that I sent you for the open space, that's, they're taking comments till the 13th because they're trying to move the plan along.
Yeah, the survey was interesting. You know, the lack of signage and people not even knowing about a lot of the areas.
I didn't know about a lot of those areas, so.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
know
but I
about
think-
some of them either.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be addressed, with the grants and things that we can get. And there's an Eagle Scout, that's doing some signage starting, next weekend. For the trails at JJ Round, there's gonna be a trail sign at Salisbury Road and at Holland Road.
Excellent.
Yeah, and there's gonna be a QR code added to it, so that'll be the start of, jumpstart the signage.
That's great. I mean, parking, how to get to these places where to park is always a question too, and I
Well,
know
there's
that.
plenty of
that came up.
on-street parking, that's the good thing, on Holland Road and on Melrose Ave. There's
Yeah,
plenty of parking down there.
Yeah.
And at Maple Way.
now at Maple Way will be something in the lot indicating that there's a trail across the other side of the field, or
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise you're not gonna know unless you are
Ex-
sitting there watching a baseball, or softball game.
right. And there's also trails, let's see, going up into the hill on the parking lot side, I believe. Something up there.
I'm not sure if that's town property or not.
Oh, actually, it's on the backside. The town-owned land is on the far end of the field that we walked over the winter. That abuts up to the Sulo farm.
Yep.
Yeah. JJ Round also, I know there's trails going up behind there.
Right, and there's a sign, I guess, at JJ at the playground. There's a trail sign there.
Okay, great.
The Eagle Scout did that, I think, 2 years ago.
Okay. Excellent. Anything else, Judy?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Anything from anybody else? If not, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second,
All right. Any discussion? No. All in favor? Ken,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
yes.
and I also vote to adjourn. All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank
meeting.
you.